It's therefore a great honor to welcome Jim Bartschi, chef designer of Scott Fly Rod. Welcome to Anadrom Podcast and welcome to Norway.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you again.
Yes,
yeah.
we do.
And what a great place to have a reunion. It's sitting on the Orkla River, overlooking a beautiful pool.
Yeah, so you're back in Norway for salmon fishing and holiday.
Salmon fishing and actually, believe it or not, work. This is work.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that later in the episode, why you're actually here.
Yeah.
But how has the fishing been?
It's been challenging, but very rewarding.
But have you done any success with the salmon this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you catch one or two or?
I caught one and I've lost a couple more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I know it's not the first Atlantic salmon you caught.
Oh, no.
No. You caught many more. But there is one thing I wonder about. You have made many great fly rods, but how did you end up working with fly rods? How did that career start?
So Scott actually, even though we're based in Colorado now, it actually started in San Francisco, California in 1974. And I was growing up in the Bay Area and was fish crazy. By the time I got to college, I was guiding for some of the fly shops in Northern California, guiding for steelhead and trout. And I would go by the Scott shop and just bug the founder of the company. I'd want to cast rods. Show me how you do this. What's this for? Asking all kinds of questions. And he finally said, "Hey, you're wasting my time. Either do something useful around here or get out." So that's how it started. Yeah.
Cool. But Scott Fly Rods had been in the market for many years now. How did Scott Fly Rods start? What is the history behind Scott Fly Rods?
So, in 1974, a man named Harry Wilson started the company in San Francisco, California. And this was before there was graphite rods. So his specialty was designing short, light line, multi-piece fiberglass rods. So he became really well regarded as a rod maker for people who went backpacking into the mountains to fish mountain streams and lakes, and built his reputation doing that. But within a short number of years, the new material came out, graphite, and Fenwick actually brought out the very first graphite rods. But what they did was replicate the same kind of rods that you'd make in fiberglass. So 7.5 foot 6 or something. Harry's big light bulb moment, his bright idea was he thought he could make a long light line rod out of graphite, which of course you couldn't do out of fiberglass. So he told all his friends at the Golden Gate Casting Club and stuff that he was going to make a 9 foot 4 line. And they said, "You're crazy. That's going to be awful." And he worked at it. And sure enough, the G904 was the world's first 9 foot 4 weight. And it changed technical trout fishing forever, especially on difficult rivers like the Henry's Fork and places where long leaders, fine tippet, small flies, and tough fish and currents existed. Those rivers were really hard to fish with the equipment before. So, yeah, that's how it all got started.
And where is the name Scott coming from? Because you say that the founder was named Harry.
Yeah. So I guess Harry Fly Rods wouldn't sound very good, but he was worried that his last name Wilson was going to be a conflict with a giant sporting goods company in the U.S. called Wilson. They make lots of athletic balls and things. And tennis balls. So he decided to name it after his son.
Okay.
Scott.
So that's the reason for the name. But just the Wilson family still is the owner of Scott, or are
No,
they
he's
engaged with?
passed away.
Okay.
So he started the company when he was in his 70s.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah.
So now is it Ford that's is the owner of Scott? Yeah.
Mr. Ford, not
Okay.
not Ford Motors.
No, okay. Cool. But I know you are in Norway because of not just holiday, but you're working with a new 200 rod series.
Yes.
Yes, and we have it just on my left side here. What is the story about this rod? How does this project start?
Yeah. Well, so about 2 years ago, we knew that the Radian series was aging, and also since that came out, we've developed two of our best ever rods, I think.
Yeah.
And the technology that we've put into those wasn't getting into our two-handers because we hadn't updated them in many years.
Yeah.
And so I was like, we really need to see what happens with the way we're using these materials and see if we can come up with something that's actually significantly better. And then it was really interesting because designing these is a long process.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was having that much fun with it. But then something changed in the whole direction. And that was the more we worked with different people in different parts of the world who fish for anadromous species, the more we came to realize that making a rod series with one style of action across the whole thing, which is what people's goal usually is the completely wrong approach to anadromous fish, because you might have to make, let's just say that they call them the fish of 1,000 casts, right?
Yeah.
Well, so you're going to cast the way you want. In other words, you might like floating lines, long leaders, and small flies. Someone else might be fishing T14 on a Skagit head. So we all fish, you can fish a single hander, a short double hander, a long double hander. They all work, right? There's no one recipe. And so once we started thinking in those terms, which was really different, instead of trying to say all anadromous fishermen should fit in our box, which is, the action style, we said, no, let's really figure out what they need and then try and deliver it. And then the project got really fun because then it was really challenging, because there are so many different ways to set up. And so trying to optimize each rod for its intended purpose was really fun. Yeah.
So this is a rod that you could get it in different actions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, it has single handers in it.
Yeah.
It has short two handers. It has what I would call standard length.
Yeah.
And then it's got the long rods.
Yeah.
And because, again, some people want to skate a dry and they prefer a single to skate a dry. So we wanted to deliver the tools for anadromous anglers to fish the way they want to.
Cool.
And not try and adapt to our rod.
Yeah. So this the name of the rod is swing.
Yes.
Yes. So it will come in both double hander and single hand rods, or is it? Okay. Cool. And what length do we get it in?
We start at 9 feet 8 inches for the single handers, and we go all the way up to 16 feet 1 inch.
Ooh,
yeah.
That's a big range. What would you say that is the for the Scandinavian casting? Is it the fast action, or is it the deep action? You think will be?
Well, again, back to what I was saying. So I know that there's anglers here because I've fished with them and met them that love quicker action rods, Scandi tapered lines. And then there's some anglers who like a deeper bending rod. And that's what I meant about preference.
Yeah.
You're going to fish your style because there's no right or wrong way to fish for salmon or steelhead. Yeah. So I think, making sure that our job was to just provide the best tools possible for that.
So you actually get a rod here for every technique or every casting. Everybody could find a swing rod that suits your style.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the idea.
So, but what is the main difference between swing and the radian? I love radian. That's been my favorite 200 rods for many years now. But what is the main difference in the two rods?
Construction techniques of the blank, but that's kind of boring. In terms of fishing, well, for instance, we just weighed a swing versus the radian. The swing was 20 grams lighter.
Oh,
yeah, it is I think a blank with more feel. But it has the recovery speed of radian.
Yeah.
But it definitely has more feedback and feel.
Yeah. I tested it just before we started the podcast now, and I felt it was a lot different from the radian. It's so much lighter. I felt the power. It was very, forgiving also. With, if I do something wrong in my cast, it was still casting out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things we tried to do with all the rods, but especially the Scandi rods, was make them ultra efficient. So the rod is doing the work, and especially on touch and go casts with these types of lines, it's not like with Skagit techniques, for instance, you have all the time in the world. Even if you blow your anchor, you can just reset it with the line and go. But these rods need to be super responsive because of the style of casting. And so that recovery speed is so critical to how quick they straighten out. And because they do that so quickly, they're very, very efficient, and they're almost effortless to cast.
Yeah, I felt that.
Yeah. So we've been, our group, we've been testing the first finished swings on this trip, the actual finished product. And I think everyone's cast better and further than they ever have.
Yeah, I felt that. It was just giving and giving. And also I felt it like if I try a fast cast, it delivers. If I slow down and let the line rest in the water, it still delivers. But I think since Radian came to the market, there's probably come a lot of new materials and new things to add to the rod. What is new on this rod?
Yeah, so for us, it's never enough for just the blank to be great.
Yeah.
We look at it as a whole system, and so we try and find the very best components that are being made, and if we can't find something that we think is good enough to go on a Scott rod, we have it made.
Yeah.
So, for instance, on this rod, we have a new kind of stripping guide that's very popular among people using conventional casting rods.
Yeah.
And they're actually made, they're called tangle free. And they're made especially for people fishing braid. So if you're running flat mono shooting line or a braided shooting line, these guides are incredible. The line just flies through them. And I've noticed I've had a lot less wraps and stuff with them. And so that's really exciting and new, this new titanium tangle-free guide.
Yeah.
And then the reel seat, we had machined out of, it's a multi-level mill step process where it's probably almost as complex to make as a reel. There's so many machined parts on it. But the thing that was really fun is that, we were just talking about people fish the way they want to for anadromous fish. Well, there's some people who like classic reels.
Yeah.
And there's some people who want the highest performance reel. But someone who's a classic reel buff is going to use the classic reel. And so most modern rods won't fit those. And so we thought, how can we solve that for them? So we had the machinist actually double mill the inside of the hood. Yeah. So they, of course, fit perfect on modern high-performance reels, but they'll fit quite a few vintage reel feet.
I see this is so clean.
Yeah.
So nice. So I could imagine how nice it would look also with a classic reel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we did a lot of work on the grip shapes and diameters, just, working with our team to find the right lengths, right diameters, and all that. So quite a bit of new stuff.
Yeah. I also see this bus section is different from the Radian.
Yes.
Yeah, I felt it's very good to hold, and it's a little bit thinner also.
Yes.
But it was great to hold it when I'm fishing. So, is it any other difference between like the materials in the graphite? Is it same with the Radian, or is it in new there?
It's actually different.
Yeah.
We have a new resin system that we're using. We're doing some new directional layups. One of the reasons these rods are just such a pleasure to fish is they're very stable from torque.
Yeah.
They not only recover to straightness fast, but they recover from twisting fast. Yeah.
I think that is very important, especially because I know when I'm self-casting, I'm getting a little bit tired of fishing. I always start to cast in. I don't have the straight line, but with a rod like that, I feel it will help me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the idea. Is to keep it straight and from bending out of plane. So that was a combination of new combination of graphite layups along with the new resin system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. I like to see that's also a little bit cleaner rod, or more. I see the wrappings are silver and.
The wrappings were inspired by anadromous fish, as you can probably tell. So that was a great one. We were dreaming of salmon and steelhead when we came up with the thread colors.
But who have been in this project making this swing rod? Is it been a Nordic or has it been with the whole Scott team or?
Oh, it's been just an amazing project from that standpoint. Because these rods in their various prototype stages were being fished in Norway, in the UK, Sweden, Alaska, Oregon, California, Michigan and Ohio, Eastern Canada, British Columbia. So all the hot spots for anadromous fish, these were getting fished by, great anglers and casters, and they were giving us feedback the whole time, and we kept fine tuning them. Some took 7 or 8 versions until we got them right. Some took 3, but they all took multiple, revisions and little fine tunings. It was cool because Tom and Eirik were testing the 15-footer, and they said, Tom's like, I don't know if you'll understand this, but I wish like under the 4th snake guide from the tip, it was just a little stiffer. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it a try. And when I sent it back, they were like, wow, nailed it. So it was fun because I had I got to interact with a lot of good friends on the project who, put as much passion and heart into it as I feel like I do. So.
Yeah, I think one of the things I like with the Scott fly rods is that when I look at the rod, I see that it's a rod made by hand. It's made by passion. It's clean in this. Yeah, I think there are fantastic rods in every way. Yeah,
well, that's part of. We do some really specific things because each rod is handcrafted individually, one at a time. Scott has done nothing but make fly rods for 50 years, which is crazy to think about. I can't think of another company that has only done that. They didn't get into reels or fly lines or, all the other categories. That we've been able to do one thing and one thing only and really focus on it, and the whole team is focused on it. I think really makes a difference. And so on every Scott rod we make, we hand inscribe the logo. It gets an individual serial number. And there's a lot of pride from the team that you can almost see in the rods.
Yeah, you see the passion behind the handcraft.
Yeah,
Behind.
and we have a lot of employees who've been with us for over 20 years, so they're really experienced, and they take pride in the work. So it's something they can go home feeling good about too, knowing that they made somebody an awesome fly rod.
We could talk a little bit about the single rods.
Yeah.
You said that it will come from 9 feet to how long are they?
So there's two models of single hander.
Yeah.
They're both 9 feet 8 inches.
Okay. Yeah.
And one is for a 7 line and one is for an 8.
Yeah.
But they're different styles.
Okay.
So the 8 is designed around shooting head systems.
Okay.
Both floating and sinking.
Yeah.
And it is just a rocket. It's amazing. And then the 7 is designed more for like people who want a micro riffle hitch, or even, like in the U.S. for steelhead, plenty of people fish nymph rigs. So that type of setup, that one's optimized for long roll casts, big mens, big stack mens, and
Cool.
Yeah.
Will that rod have the same finish with the same materials that the 200 rods also?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That's the thing that ties them together is the components and the look. But each one is its own character.
Yeah, but when you told me that the 8 foot is for the class 8 is for shooting head, then I was thinking that will cover the most Norwegian salmon fishing, because same with my fishing, I use at class 8 I use shooting head, and class 7 I use like a weight forward line for riffling and bomber fishing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. When you're gonna skate, either a dry or a riffle hitched fly, that's the rod you'd want. Yeah. And when you have to put on a Type 5 and go talk to them down in the rocks, then I'd take the shooting head rod.
So this is a complete series for, if we talk for the fishing we do in Norway, it's a complete series of rods for Scandinavian salmon fishing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And think about all the different rivers that you guys fish in Scandinavia. I can think of numerous ones I've been on that they're so different in character, in size, in depth, in speed. One rod doesn't fit all situations.
No.
You can force it to, but if you could really get the perfect tool, wouldn't you take it?
Yeah, of course. But in the end here, Jim, I know you have fished a lot in the whole world. What is your favorite, or what is the coolest fishing you ever done?
Well, I've been very lucky to fish all over the world. It's impossible for me to pick a favorite. Anadromous fish are a huge passion of mine. I grew up steelheading and chased them all up and down the West Coast from Alaska to California for many seasons. I fish the flats a lot, especially the Florida Keys, and mostly because my boat is down in Key West. It's been there for 15, 20 years. And so I do a lot of tarpon fishing, a lot of permit fishing, a lot of bone fishing. I love that. But I really, all species are interesting to me. I never get bored of fish. And I never feel like they're the same. I mean, our local trout stream at home is called the Gunnison River. And
I've heard of it.
It's incredible. And I fish that, often daily. And I never get bored or think I know it. It always feels new. It's always challenging. It's always interesting. And so, I even fish small streams for little native trout species
Yeah.
like cutthroat and brook trout,
Yeah.
or even go to Japan to fish for yamame and iwana, which are wonderful species. So that doesn't have to be, 15-kilo salmon or or a 50-kilo tarpon. I love it all.
Yeah. It's just a passion for fly fishing and fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more than anything, it's the people and the places.
Yeah.
Getting back together with you, seeing friends,
Yeah.
sharing good times. Yeah, that's I love it. That's
I feel the same with the fly fishing. It's the catching is not the most important. It's just being there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So-
And the catching will come.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
will. It will.
It will. Exactly. So yeah.
So thank you so much for joining Anadrom Podcast, Jim.
Oh, thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
It's really great to see you.
I wish you all the best with the new fly rod. It's a fantastic rod, and I hope a lot of Norwegian fly fishermen will try it and like the rod.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Thank you.